So last month, we shared a video talking about generosity, and if you want to watch that video, there's going to be a link below. Two of the things we talked about were that when it comes to giving and generosity, there has to be one, some sort of recognition of a need, and two, there has to be a desire within you to meet that need. So today, what I want to talk about is that next step then of how do we actually meet those needs. So when we look at meeting a need, one of the things we run into sometimes is people come into the office and maybe it's I don't think I can do that. I'm not sure I can afford to give. Some other people will come in and say, "God, I'd love to support this project or that project, but all my money is tied up in an asset. You know, I don't have the cash flow to make that happen." So that to me is where the fun really begins, because that's where you get to take a step back and kind of get creative in how you look at giving and say, what do I have that still can allow me to make the difference that I want to make. So that's what we want to talk about today, is sharing 3 different stories of unique ways that people have found to still make a difference, even where it seemed, seemingly difficult from a cash flow standpoint. So the first one I'm going to share is there's a local organization that, through the staff that was there at the time, the board that they were working with, was really trying to look at long-term sustainability. And as they talked, some unique opportunities came to light. And what transpired was a really, at the time, unique way for them to create sustainability. What happened was one of the guys came to the table and said, "You know what if we did a corporate office building?" And they talked through it, and as they talked through what it would take for them to put a corporate office building together, it's going to take a piece of ground, it's going to take construction of the building, it's going to take operation of the building, and what are we going to do to provide this sustainability? Well, what happened then was people stepped back to look at things creatively, and all of a sudden somebody comes to the table and says, "You know what, I have a piece of ground that I'd be willing to provide the organization and donate to the organization if you want to put the building on that spot." Unbelievable. All of a sudden somebody comes to the table and says, "You know what, I'd be willing to provide building materials. I maybe can't necessarily write a check at this point, but I can provide building materials. I'd be happy to do that." Some people come to the table with cash. People come to the table and say, "Hey, you know what? HVAC is kind of my deal. I'd be happy to help with the HVAC." Others, it's furnishings, it's decoration, and all of a sudden these people come to the table to say, "Hey, yeah, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this." And what happened was there ended up being built a 3-story office building that now has created long-term sustainability for this nonprofit organization, because what they can do is they can rent out office space, and the rent from those offices is now a sustainable way for them to provide resources for their ministry. So people coming together in a unique way it's really fun for me to see. The second one that I want to share is there's another opportunity that came to light as people look at unique ways to give, maybe what outside of the normal, let's just write a check. So there is a farmer that actually had a piece of farm ground, and he was willing to donate use of that land for a season, which was kind of a unique way to look at things. So just donated use of the land. So what happened then? A group of people came together, and one person said, "Well, our entity would be willing to donate the seed." So we got seed donated for the land. Somebody came to the table and donated fertilizer. There were local farmers that came together that said, "Hey, I would be happy to do the planting. I'll do the spraying in the fall. I'd love to do the combining." And all of a sudden, all these entities come together, and at the end of the season, that crop comes out of the ground, the storage got donated, the crop goes to market, and 100% of the sale of the crop that came out of that ground, which ended up being one of the best years that land has ever had, went to support a Christian school in Ethiopia. So just to see, again, people not necessarily feeling like, hey, I have to write a check for every time I want to support an organization. People giving what they have was such a cool experience and a neat way for people to make a difference with what they had been provided. Has been a unique one that I've experienced a number of times with people. So a lot of people, especially around here, have some sort of farmland, or some sort of property that they're looking at doing something with, and a lot of times that land is producing some sort of crop. And a lot of people often look at, they want to own ground, they want to be able to walk it, they want to be able to feel it, but they're not necessarily reliant on the income from the crop. One of the things people will often do is traditionally, we always feel like we've got to write the check. That's our way to give. So the way that we usually get the money to give is we sell something. So take the farmland, it produces a crop, let's call it corn. We sell the corn, and that provides money to us, and then we write a check, out of our account to support some organization. Well, one of the things that people often overlook is this whole concept of giving before you sell. So what we've seen people do is actually they end up opening a giving account at the local elevator. So they have their personal account, and then they have a giving account, and what they can do is they can go to the elevator and say, hey, I want X amount of bushels to go into my giving account, and I want X amount of bushels to go into my personal account. The minute those bushels go into the giving account, you've got a tax deduction, for the value of the bushels that went into that giving account. The giving account sells the bushels and doesn't pay any tax because it's a nonprofit organization, and 100% of that sale then, not having any tax come out of it, goes to support, whatever organization you decide to support out of that giving fund. So for me, it's just so important for people to look for unique ways to make the difference that they want to make. That I don't like to look at it and necessarily take no for an answer when people say, hey, I really want to do this, but I don't think I can afford it, or I don't think I have the ability to meet that need because my assets are tied up in X. No, let's take that step back then and say, well, let's think creatively first before we completely close that door. What are unique ways that we can look at this to say, hey, can we meet that need? It just may not look like what you thought it was initially going to look like, but we can still make that happen, and maybe even make it happen on a grander scale than what we thought was possible. The other neat thing that I take from those stories is that giving doesn't necessarily have to be just a one person has to do it all themselves. To see the power of people coming together who share a heart for a cause and what they can do together, and what they can do when they put their minds together is oftentimes incredible. So if there's something that you're passionate about wanting to accomplish and you're not necessarily sure if you can make that happen or how you can make that happen, those are the things we want to help with. We want to help you plan. We want to be able to help you, if possible, green light some of these things that you want to be able to do, and just help you think strategically about different ways that you can make a difference. So if one of those stories resonates with you and you want to talk more about it, give us a shout, and we'd be happy to do that with you.